If you think only cemeteries and old buildings are haunted, then you're going to want to stick around for this video because today we have some first-hand accounts of weird and creepy hauntings that happened where the animals roam. Zoos are actually very dangerous places and thus are rife with tragedy, and that gets you primed for ghosts. Today, we have everything from strange incidents to full-bodied apparitions. Here are the top 5 most haunted and scary zoos. Number 5. Fort Worth Zoo, Texas. With its considerably large collection of exotic animals, the Fort Worth Zoo in Texas has been touted as one of the most important sanctuaries in the South. Being in operation for more than 100 years and originally called the Forest Park Zoo, the Fort Worth Zoo started off as more of an asylum to abandoned pets and stray animals. In 1912, a woman named Alice Imhoff garnered attention from the public for her incredible animal handling skills. The newspapers often made mention of how she could just easily waltz into every cage without fear or hesitation. Whatever was in there, no matter if it were a lion or a bear, would then greet her kindly as if she were one of them. It was even reported that she single-handedly tamed 2 of the zoo's most vicious wolves, and this too she did so effortlessly. Alice, though, is actually not part of the establishment, as it was only her husband Fred who was the employee. But realizing how good and passionate she was, Mr. Imhoff decided to relinquish his duties to his wife. And from there, Alice's dedication just grew even stronger. There was one instance, for example, when the zoo was raided by vandals who slaughtered more than 40 rabbits overnight. In order to save the baby bunnies, they then made a contraption that would simulate a mother rabbit feeding her offspring that she attached to herself. Eventually, though, the zoo changed management and the new crew wanted Alice out, but her love for the animals was just too strong, so much so that she chose to never leave. It's not clear how and when Imhoff passed away exactly, but it's widely believed that she is the ghostly apparition that many refer to today as the Woman in White, who, even to this day, is still seen roaming the zoo. Employees and visitors have reported seeing this woman pacing around what is now the zoo's cafe. Although it appears as if she has turn-of-the-century clothes on and a parasol, which doesn't really fit who Alice was, so perhaps it is the spirit of someone else. But Alice wouldn't be the only one who literally offered their lives for the sake of animals. In the 1980s, there was an employee named Michael Bell at the zoo, who also became famous for his profound love for the elephants. He was only 35 when he became the zoo's chief elephant handler. Sadly, his inclination to help these giants would lead to his demise. During one of his shifts in '87, Michael was working with a 7,000-pound elephant named Sam. Although no one could say exactly what happened, as they were the only ones around at the time, investigators later on found out that the animal accidentally knocked its handler down with its trunk before stepping on his head. As tragic as it was, the zoo management chose to keep Sam on display, and apparently the spirit of its handler also chose to stay, perhaps to continue caring for them even after his death. Fort Worth Zoo receives about 1 million visitors each year. Hundreds of thousands of animals have come and gone through its care, and the ghosts of Alice and Michael have remained, likely to ensure the welfare of their animal friends. Number 4. Alexandria Zoological Park. This might come as a surprise, but in a recent survey conducted by real estate developers, the city that holds the title as the most haunted in the country can be found in Louisiana, in the city, Alexandria. With a population of only about 50,000, Alexandria beat out other famous haunted cities like Prescott, Arizona, Danville, Virginia, and even Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, to be named the spookiest metro in the States. Cemeteries and antique shops and old mansions are cited as two of the most popular haunted places, but one unlikely place stood out: the Alexandria Zoological Park. First opened to the public in 1926, this zoo started off as a row of chain-link fences and iron bars that housed discarded pets like rabbits, goats, and deer. But with the support of Friends of the Alexandria Zoo, FOTAZ, and the accreditation of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums of America, the zoo has grown to become one of the most visited tourism sites in the state. And along with its popularity, there came an unexpected infamy as this park plays host to many spiritual beings. This all began in 1974 when a man named Robert Les Witt was sworn in as the zoo's director. He would later on become its longest-running director, having served more than 30 years in the position. In 2008, at the age of 56, Mr. Witt died due to heart problems. Employees and park visitors alike would remember him fondly for his jovial personality, and many could recall how he loved to play harmless pranks and practical jokes on people. Perhaps he himself is also one of the reasons why many people visited the zoo in the first place, so it makes sense that his spirit still lingers there. The first people to feel his presence were the employees. Reports indicated that they would sometimes feel like they were being followed, which is a very distinct feeling if you've ever had it. But when they would turn around to see who it could be, no one was actually there. Sometimes zookeepers would notice that the animals would act up out of the blue, behavior normally reserved for if there were an intruder or other animals nearby, only nothing was around. Visitors also have gotten a dose of these strange activities as time and time again, many have said that they have felt pebbles hitting them in their backs and shoulders while strolling through the park. They never hurt. That doesn't seem to be the intention, but it is a prank that appears to go on without any person actually being caught for throwing them. As such, many believe that the culprit could be none other than the ghost of the prankster, Mr. Witt. And this theory seemed to be corroborated with a group of paranormal experts who opted to include the zoo in one of their expeditions. And because it is a zoo open daily, the only time they could get in there was during the night, and their mission was to find any sign of Mr. Witt's presence. During one of the recording sessions in the dead of night, they appeared to catch the sound of a man's voice, although what he said exactly wasn't clear. However, just after that, an entire cage of monkeys started freaking out in the distance, disturbed apparently by something. In the end, though, no one really knows Witt's intentions to remain in the zoo. But one thing's for sure, this place really must mean something to him, so much so that he's never going to leave. Number 3. Lincoln Park Zoo. The thing about Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, Illinois, is that this popular animal sanctuary is situated in an area that in and of itself is teeming with paranormal activity. In the 1920s, the place saw some of the worst gang violence in the history of Chicago. There were countless shootings and deaths that occurred during this time, which explain the prevalence of hauntings caused by the spirits of helpless victims. Lincoln Park was also the scene of one of the craziest stories in 1982, the reason why all our bottles are sealed nowadays, the Tylenol murders. That case involved the tragic death of 7 people who had taken Tylenol that someone laced with cyanide, and here in Lincoln Park, a flight attendant was found dead from it. In this area, there's the haunted restaurant called That Steak Joint, now named Adobo Grill, where spirits would outrightly drag waitresses and employees down the staircase. And it's also the home of the infamous St. Michael's Church, where the devil himself is said to have appeared during a communion rite. He was cloaked in a black hood and robe, with hooves instead of feet. So, there's a lot of paranormal activity in Chi-Town's Lincoln Park, but the place on our list today is one you may not know about: the Lincoln Park Zoo. What makes this place haunted is not necessarily the ghosts of animals and zookeepers, but the land on which it sits, which was once the Chicago City Cemetery. Buried here were more than 30,000 people, most of whom perished because of the cholera wave that swept through the country in the 1840s. Because of this, residents petitioned the government that those interred should be relocated for fear that the disease would seep into the water supply. So, lots of graves got disturbed, which is a big no-no. And still, despite the massive relocation operation that took place, there still remains more than 10,000 bodies buried at the site. One of the many spots where hauntings are quite prevalent at this zoo is the Lion House, particularly in the women's restroom. Reports have said that visitors have seen in the mirrors men and women dressed in Victorian clothing. Paranormal investigators working on the park's anomaly reported hearing a man's voice commanding anyone who dared to enter the premises to get out. At other times, they recorded voices that seemed to ask for help, as if they had been lost, perhaps after their bodies had been removed. Not only the Lion House, but also the renowned Primate House of Lincoln Park Zoo is also where the hauntings have happened. In an investigation conducted by the Chicago Paranormal Investigators, they found out that there's a little girl who wanders around the area. The experts even got to capture an audio recording of the young girl saying that she wants to go to the Lincoln Zoo. One time while surveying the grounds, they were disturbed by the painful screaming of lemurs. When they checked, they found nothing that could possibly agitate the animals. As such, they asked the unseen culprit to stop disturbing the lemurs. Moments later, the primates cooled down and went back to sleep. These hauntings all continue to this day, not only inside of Lincoln Park Zoo, but also in the surrounding areas. Number 2. Griffith Park Zoo. One of the most visited parks in Los Angeles, Griffith Park holds a secret that not everyone knows. On its east side once stood a zoo that now serves as a picnic area. During the day, visitors can eat their snacks and drink their kombuchas at the tables that are around there. However, it's a different story once the sun sets, as the old structure that still sit there come alive with ghosts of animals who suffered horrific deaths. First opened in 1912, the old zoo started off with only 15 animals on display. With the funding from then President Franklin D. Roosevelt and the large population of California, it then grew into something that attracted almost 2 million visitors per year. With this number, administrators decided to build a much bigger site nearby to better accommodate the influx of people, but ultimately, after several decades, by 1966, the Griffith Park Zoo closed down completely. Now abandoned, the once vibrant area eventually became dilapidated. The walls lined floor to ceiling with graffiti, but beyond what living people had done to the place, there are some even scarier happenings that are going on there. Many visitors who have dared to venture into this part of Griffith Park have reported some freaky encounters and unexplainable phenomena. Most notable of which are the eerie sounds coming from what seems to be the animals themselves. According to these people, in the quiet of night if you go there, you will hear noises that are more like distress calls coming from captive animals. And these disturbances are somewhat proof of the dark rumors circulating around the zoo. Because allegedly the former animals here had suffered terrible treatment by staff members who were negligent of their duties and improperly trained. It also has been speculated that as the zoo's operations came to a close, the management had purportedly chosen to neglect the welfare of their captives, which then resulted to malnutrition and sickness. Eventually, the poor animals perished right inside the very cages they were trapped in. Others say there's even an incident where employees would abuse some of the animals, so these people were not caretakers at all, but instead saw the animals as beneath them. As a result, those sensitive enough have claimed to have seen images of the tormented animals lying down, waiting to sigh their last breath. Adding more to the creepiness of the place is the fact that the park itself has been the scene of multiple murder investigations. So no matter what the reason, the chronic hauntings in the old zoo are indications that this place has seen its share of dark moments. And you can go there for yourself if you please, for a nice family picnic. Number 1. Philadelphia Zoo. America's first zoo, the Philadelphia Zoo is renowned for its unwavering commitment and caring in preserving wildlife. Though it was officially opened in 1874, its charter was signed in 1859. And had it not been for the Civil War, the zoo would have been 15 years older than it is today. However, its stellar fame is not without an ill reputation attached to it. After all, within the span of 150 years, there's bound to have been some terrible things that happened on its grounds. One infamous area in the zoo is the building known as the Solitude. Built in 1784, long before the park itself, the Solitude was erected for John Penn, William Penn's grandson. William Penn was a famous English philosopher and writer who founded the province of Pennsylvania during the British colonial era. And the building would serve as a sanctuary for the younger Penn, who often looked for ways to escape the hustle and bustle of the city. This portion of the zoo has garnered the attention from the public for some time now. Workers have reported seeing an apparition of a person they believe to be John Penn himself. Many others also speak of hearing mysterious music playing from the manor's large cryptoporticus, which is basically a covered corridor. A light in the attic as well mysteriously turns itself on and off when no one is there, and despite having electricians look into it, no explanation has ever been given why. Other buildings on the grounds seem to be teeming with paranormal activities too. This include the Penrose Laboratory, which used to be a research lab and vet hospital. Now filled with office cubicles, investigators have reported hearing strange sounds coming from no known source. Using a specialized thermoscanner, they also found out that some areas of the room appear to be colder than the rest. The Shelley Building, which is now used as an administration office, is another point of interest. Considering that these buildings are old, it's anyone's guess as to what kind of spiritual presence resides within them. Sounds of papers rustling and doors slamming are just but some of the manifestations of an otherworldly force. Perhaps the most zoo-like area of the park is what's known as the treehouse. And yet again, some unusual activities can be felt here. Visitors, especially children, often notice things being knocked over as if they were toppled over by unseen hands. Should there be any consolation, paranormal investigators suggest that the hauntings in the zoo are caused only by human spirits, and despite these unsavory attractions, the Philadelphia Zoo continues to charm sightseers from around the world. So there were the top 5 most haunted and scary zoos. If you want a free trial of bonus content plus access to our huge library of exclusive videos, go check us out at patreon.com/scarymysteries, where every Thursday we post a new video you won't find here on YouTube. We love getting your support, and it helps us continue. You can try it free for 7 days. Thanks for tuning in today. I'll see you soon.